everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to play the guitar solo from the classic Van Halen song and the Cradle Will Rock. Now some of you might be wondering why I decided to use this guitar, a semi-hollow body guitar, for this video. And there's actually a good reason. Eddie Van Halen used a semi-hollow guitar, in his case a Gibson 335, for this solo. Now, if you go out there and look on the internet right now, you might find a few scant references. You won't find any interviews with Eddie talking about it. However, you will find it in the book Eruption: Conversations with Eddie Van Halen. That's where I was able to validate it. Now, the connection with Eddie Van Halen and Gibson 335s, it goes a little bit deeper than that. At one point in time, several years before they were signed, it was actually his #1 guitar. But apparently, the guys in the band didn't think it really fit the look, so he abandoned it. However, he did use the pickup from his Gibson 335 in his original Frankenstrat. So the connection goes actually pretty deep. Now, if you're a fan of Eddie's playing, I've got over 50 Van Halen lessons here on YouTube, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to catch all my new content as soon as it comes out. Hitting the thumbs up does help my videos get a little bit more exposure. And then if you've got any questions or comments, leave those down below, and I'll attempt to answer the questions as time allows. Now, if you're interested in getting a copy of the custom tabs that I've created here, or the awesome backing track from Jam Kazam, I'll make sure to put information down in the video description below. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play the solo again for you, this time slowly and then at normal speed with the tabs on the screen. That way the more advanced players can get through this more quickly, and then after that, for everybody else, I'm going to break it down note by note. Let's go. Here's section 1 at normal and then slow speed. Let's break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first, slowly. It's all in the B string. We're going to finger tap on 13, pull off to 5, hammer to 8, 3 times. Then we're going to tap onto 13, pull off to 6, hammer to 9. So you're basically shifting your left hand up 1 fret. Play that twice, 13, 6, 9. Then we're going to finger tap again on 13, shift your left hand up to 7 and 10. Then we play 13, 7, 10, 7. I'm going to tie everything together in that first box and play it a few times slowly. Then in the second box. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to play the 10th fret of the G string, but we're not picking it like... You're coming out of all that tapping from the first box. You're just going to pull off on the string from some higher area to make that sound, that 10th fret sound, like, and then bend it up. When I listen closely to the original track and the isolated track, I don't hear Eddie Pickett like. You certainly can if you want, but the regulars know I like to get it accurate to the original. All right, so again, you're bending up at that 10th fret note. Hold it for a little bit. I'm going to explain this slowly. Come down halfway, tap on the 13th fret, bring it back up, back down, back up. Okay? A lot of people don't do the little dip down before they tap. They usually just tap at the top, like, instead of. Little subtle things like that make all the difference. And then when you're at the top of that bend, pull off to 10 and then bring it down. And then from there, at the bottom, you're going to pull off to 9. Add vibrato and slide down. I'm not using as much distortion as I did in the performance. So the note's kind of dying out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to tie both boxes together, and I'm going to play section 1 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. All right, let's move on to section 2. Here's section 2 at normal and then slow speed. All right, we're going to break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first, so what you're going to do is you're going to rake over the D string, it's a little scratch note, to hit 5 of G, and then you're going to bend that up 1.5 steps, so taking it from here to here. And then you're going to hit the note 10 times while you're holding the bend. You kind of speed up a little bit, right? The first 4 are slower, and then the last 6 are a little bit faster. Okay, don't count it, just go with what feels right. And then bring the bend down. It's kind of choppy. It's almost like little semi-pinch harmonics. Then in the second box. So as you come down from that bend in the first box, you're pulling off to 3, hammering on to 5, pulling off to 3. And then you're bending that note up a full step. Now, a lot of people are tempted, instead of bending up at the 3rd fret with their index finger, they want to slide down so they can bend with their ring finger. You can certainly do that if you want, but again, I've said this before, I think practicing doing those wider bends with your index finger, it's going to open up possibilities to do different things, right? Get you out of those normal ruts. So I say go for the index finger. All right, we're going to tie both boxes together. Play section 2 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. All right, let's move on to section 3. Here's section 3 at normal and then slow speed. Let's break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first, slowly. We start with a quick slide from 3 to 5 on the A string. A lot of people miss that. They tend to go into the next part immediately. But if you listen to the isolated guitar tracks you can find on YouTube, you'll hear that quick little right before it. Now Eddie was known to, comp his solos and kind of splice them together. And that first part sounds like it may have been from a solo part that he didn't use when he put them all together. But it's there, okay? Listen closely, you'll hear the little. And then after that, we're going to play on the A string 3, hammer to 5, 7. Then on the D string, 5, hammer to 7, 9. Then on the G string, 5, hammer to 9, pull off to 5. Let's play what we have so far slowly. Then we'll hit 5 again on G, and then 7 slide to 10. And then on the B string, 8, 11 pull off to 8. Let me play what we have so far slowly. And then 11 on B, bend up a full step, 8 on high E. Now let me play the first box for you slowly a couple times. Then in the second box, we play slowly. Oops, the note was dying out there when I try to slow it down sometimes. Plus, I'm adjusting the volume knob. I'll get to that in a minute. But first, we're going to bend up at the 11th fret of the high E string, just sharp of one full step. And then 11, 10, 9, 8. Nice little chromatic sequence. Then we're going to bend up at the 11th fret of the B string. Hold it for a little bit, bring it back down. And then while you're holding that note again, you're going to do 5 more bends, quicker. Slide up. But as you're coming out of those bends and you're sliding up, I want you to lower your volume knob. Okay, you're going to lower it. On this guitar, I'm lowering it about halfway. It's to get you ready for the next part. You might need to turn it down even further or less. It's going to really depend on the guitar. It'll make sense in a minute when we get to the next part. All right, let's tie both boxes together and play section 3 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. All right, let's move on to section 4. Okay, section 4 goes like this. Okay, now remember, I've got my guitar's volume knob down about halfway for this part. I'm going to play 19 of G, bend up a full step, hold it, and then hit 20 of B. And then while you're holding both notes, you're going to hit 19 of G again and bring the bend down. Then at the bottom of that bend, you're going to play 17 of G palm muted, and then 20 of high E vibrato. Okay, now this section should be the easiest. I'll just play it one more time slowly and then at normal speed. All right, let's keep moving. Now before we get into section 5, I actually want to talk really quickly about that effect that you hear in between the first and the second half of the solo where you hear the... That's actually not on the guitar, it's on the keyboard. However, it's very reminiscent of what Eddie does on the guitar in Atomic Punk, right? I've got a lesson for that here on my channel where he takes a phaser and then he kind of rubs his palm on the strings. I'm doing it with a flanger now. You can use a phaser, you can use a flanger. Just set it for kind of a wide, slow kind of sweep. And then again, you're just rubbing your hands on the string. Just experiment and have fun with it. Here's section 5 at normal and then slow speed. Let's break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first, very Chuck Berry-ish, right? So we're going to start with a unison bend. We got 5 of B and 7 of G. Bend that 7 of G up a full step. And then 5 of B and E twice. Then you do the unison bend again with 5 on B and 7 on G. And then 5B and 5 of E 3 times. Here's that first box again. Then in the second box, so we're going to start by playing 5 of G and 3 of B, and then play them again. This time you're doing a unison bend. You're going to bend 5 of G up. So far in that second box. Then you do that again, but when you bend up, you're going to do vibrato. And then you're bending up. You're sliding up 3 of B. You can slide up both notes if you want. All right, let's tie both boxes together. Play section 5 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 6. Here's section 6 at normal and then slow speed. So in the first box, we play. So we're going to play 4 of B, slide to 9. And then you hold that note and play 10 of B, 7 of E. And then you play 10 of B and 7 of E again. Then you're going to slide up to 9 of G, 10 of B, 7 of E. And then, while you're holding that, play 10 of B, 7 of E 3 times. Okay. Then in the second box, we play. So it's 4 on B, slide to 7, and then hold the note. And then 8 of B and E. So far in the second box. And then, while those notes are ringing, you're going to play 8 of B, and then 7 of G, 8 of B. So far in that second box. And then 7G, 8B, 5E, slide up. Hold it for a little bit before you slide up. Now, oftentimes I'm tempted at the end to play 7G, 8B, 5E twice. Like, that would be like this. It sounds like Eddie's doing that when you're listening to the track. But if you listen to the isolated guitar track, you don't hear him hit it twice at the end. You hit it once. I think it might be the Echoplex or whatever delay unit Eddie used on that particular track. I think that's what's happening. Like you're hearing it echo, right? I'm hitting it twice, but you know what I mean. Either way, you should be fine if you want to do that chord once or twice. Here's that second box again. or if you want to hit it twice. All right, let's tie both boxes together and play section 6 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 7. Here's section 7 at normal and then slow speed. Let's break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first we play. So what you're doing here is you're bending up at the 8th fret of the B string, holding it, and then hitting 8 on high E, and then hitting that 8B and bringing it down. Okay. And then you'll play 8 of high E, and then 8 of B bend up again. And then holding that, you're going to hit 8 of high E, and the 8 of B, bring it down. Let me play that first box a few times slowly. A lot of times people will be tempted to tap it and do something like, which seems like a very Eddie thing to do, right? And I don't blame them for doing that, but I don't hear those notes tapped in there. I hear picked notes. Now in the second box we play slowly. Now remember, in the first box we played. When we come down from that last bend, we start the second box by pulling off to 5. Okay? Then you're going to hammer back on to 8, and then finger tap on to 10, pull off to 8, bend up. So far in that second box? Let's do this. Let's play the first box and then add in those first 4 notes in the second box we just learned, slowly. And then we're going to finger tap onto 10, pull off to 5, hammer to 8. Finger tap onto 10, pull off to 8, bend up. So far on that second box? Then we do that motion again, that movement. And then you come down from the bend, back, up, down, slide down, like this. All right, let's tie everything together in that second box and play it a few times. All right, now we're going to tie both boxes together and play section 7 one more time, slowly and then at normal speed. Okay, let's move on to the final section, section 8. All right, here's section 8. Let's break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first we play. So we start by sliding from 5 to 19 of G. Most people miss that. You hear it when you listen to the isolated guitar track, or if you listen to the regular track really carefully. Most people won't know if you don't play that part, but it's there. And then you're going to play 17 on E and 20 of B together twice. And then you're going to play 19G, 20B, 17E 3 times together. And you're slowly bending up that 19th fret G string note about a little flat of a full step, about 3/4 of a step. Let's tie everything together in that first box. One more time. Now, it's quite possible that Eddie overdubbed the G and B strings like and underneath it he was just playing this 17E 20B 5 times. Right? And then he comes in on top of that. That's quite possible. All those notes are blending together. I hear that in the isolated guitar track. Again, whether it was an overdub or not, or some sort of other comping, I don't know, but all those notes are in there. Then in the second box, we play. So what we're doing here is we're playing 17 of B and 20 of E. We're going to play it 3 times, and as we're playing it, we're going to be bending up that B string. Okay? It's almost like the first time is 20 is just stationary, 20 on B, and then the second time it's up maybe halfway, and the third time maybe 3/4. All right, and then you continue that bend up, and when you get to the top, you're going to start picking the 20th of B fast. And then you hit both notes. Vibrato slide down. All right, I'm going to play section 8 one more time for you. Okay, let's wrap it up. That was my lesson on how to play the guitar solo from the classic Van Halen song and the Cradle Will Rock. If you found it helpful or informative, I would appreciate a thumbs up, and please hit that subscribe button to catch all my content as soon as it's available. And if you've got any questions or comments, leave those down below and I'll attempt to answer the questions as time allows. Until next time, rock on.